Hey guys, it's Coach Bricks back when I'm with my man, Dr. Joe. Hey, RX Health and Fitness. We wanted to talk about, what are you seeing, doctor, when it comes to over the last 5 years? Since you've been practicing, you have your own practice now where you're independent, which is great from, big corporations. But what are you seeing an increase in over the last 5 years that maybe we didn't see 15, 20, 30 years ago?
It's a very good question, Dave. Some of these things that you'll see or you're able to recognize or kind of see in pattern or start to kind of see in more of a frequency. Some of these things are a little bit more epidemic, kind of worldwide. And then some of these are a little bit more endemic, kind of more localized to a local area. We're currently in the central PA, Pennsylvania area, and as you know, Dave, for example, on a Friday, today's Friday, I guarantee you 2 hours from now at 4 o'clock, you can ride by any restaurant and it will be packed. It's either happy hour or dinner time.
Yep.
Birthday, dinner time. Okay, celebration, dinner time. Someone passes after the funeral, where we're going to eat. Not to say that's a negative thing, but the gyms, I often tell a person, you're looking to go to the gym and not be bothered, go 4 o'clock on a Friday, okay?
That is true.
Or if you're like Dave, go 4:30 in the morning, right?
Never be bothered them.
Yes. But one thing I do see that's a little bit more endemic, to get to specifics, I do see higher rates of obesity. Obesity is one that just can't be denied. We see higher rates of obesity not only in adults, we see it higher in children, and then the question comes as to why. Things that when it comes from a children's standpoint, children are made to be active. Yes, they're made to learn, but they're made to move. They're made to play. Even if I go by a CDC guideline for children, Centers of Disease Control, government guidelines that come out, they even encourage for a child daily 45 to 60 minutes every day, a child should be exercising, playing. How many children are even doing that?
I think, let me interject real quick, because I think you're exactly right. And that's free play. Do you know what I mean? Organized is one thing. Everybody wants this organized thing, but that's not solving the issue.
Yeah.
It's free play. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, they have to go out and play basketball. It's just running and moving. And I think even 45 minutes to 60 minutes is way low for young kids. I think it should be like 2 to 3 hours every day.
Because they're eating.
Exactly.
They're eating. And they're children, they're supposed to consume and not worry about calorie counting, more quality counting, not calorie counting. But James, as you said, they're children. 2 children, scheduling play dates. I didn't know that had to be scheduled. Go outside, be active. You just better be in as the sun's going down, or don't leave the yard. But playing,
Yes.
Activity is where we're getting at. Those recesses, things are being moved out of the school. I thought I just saw a news report somewhere is considering bringing recess back into high school level. I said, wow, that would be great. Amazing. I don't even recall it. But activity, okay, obesity, okay? And then if you think as we get older, the higher you work up in a working corporate ladder, guess what? If this is a person moving, I'm lower on the corporate ladder, the higher I move up in the corporate ladder, or the higher I move up in the world ladder, you start to have a family, which is a beautiful thing. You have a job, which is a beautiful thing. Here's how we start moving. Okay, and then next thing you know, Dave, you're at a desk job. You have a job, very important. Kids become important. You're running them, if you are, maybe to sports or whatever activities there are. And then next thing you know is the dinner table and bed. So then even as an adult, how much are you moving? So it does start with obesity. Many ask, what is this changing? I often say, hey, we were made to move. We were initially hunters and gatherers. You ate what you killed, but you had to earn it. Okay, you had to work for it. We don't have to work for it. We can now have it brought to us. Obesity, some of the things I see prevalent. Obesity, a condition, but a underlying condition that many don't recognize that I see a lot, Dave. I see someone for diabetes, heart disease, cognitive concerns, joint arthritis. The common denominator of all of those and many more I didn't even get to mention, and again, this is a common denominator, it starts with the letter I, inflammation. Everyone's worried about longevity and lifetime, inflammation. Worried about obesity and the effects, inflammation. Heart disease, inflammation. Diabetes, inflammation. Okay, all of these things and much more. And arthritis, inflammatory.
It's funny that you bring that up because I was just doing some research. As I always tell you, I'm always doing some longevity stuff. And 14 of the top 15 killers in the world are all inflammation related.
I forgot one of the largest, cancer.
Correct.
I don't care what type of cancer. Cancer. Okay? The definition of cancer, uncontrolled cell division. What happens? Something triggers the body to want to heal itself. And the trigger that turns on to cause the body to want to heal itself, the body wants to heal. The trigger to turn off that healing to say, hey, we've healed enough, that cell division. The body in certain situations can lose that trigger. That's what allows that unfortunate mass in a woman's breast tissue, breast cancer. That unfortunate mass in the male's prostate cancer. Okay, all right. Cancer, uncontrolled cell division. But I like to take it a step further, and where a lot of cancer research, whether we want to admit or not, research for something that comes out now has started more than almost 50 to 100 years ago. Things that are coming out now from a research standpoint, that people started looking into these things 100 years ago and trying to find out the why, from a research standpoint, researchers, okay? When it comes to cancer and inflammation, cancer, what caused the body to want to turn on that healing signal? You're right, excessive sun exposure can expose a person to skin cancer. Why? Because your body tries to heal from that sunburn, at that point in time. It wants to heal, create a scab, but then that scab doesn't want to stop regenerating that abnormal type of tissue, okay? So what things can we do to improve inflammation or reduce inflammation or inflammatory effects? I think is very big anecdotal for, guess what? Prevention of cancers. What can we do to prevent cancer? We have so many cancers that we deal with even now. And I know we're not on the topic of cancer, but what has changed? Are we catching more rates of cancer? Are there more technologies to catch and diagnose? I don't think that's the case with why we're seeing more. But things that we now subject ourselves to that are not natural or pro-inflammatory causing, I think has changed. Okay? Our bodies, like I was talking a minute ago about hunters and gatherers, we changed. We started becoming sedentary. We started to become too heavy for our body and weak for our frame. That's why arthritis is flaring, okay? Autoimmune conditions, okay? What caused our immune system to hyperregulate, upregulate, to want to attack the body or certain organ systems in the body? Autoimmune, your own immune system starts recognizing your body as non-self. That's where all autoimmune conditions come from. But even before a step before that, what caused the immune system to be inflamed, I think is key. We do know as physiologists, especially these things that we learn about structure and function, lowering a person's rate or inflammation or inflammatory effects or counteracting that earlier, the better for anyone. We all want to live longer, yes. Not only do we want to live longer, we want to live with a better quality, okay? We know about foods that you have to watch out for that can promote different hormonal fluctuations in a male or female based on inflammation. These are all things, but what am I seeing in high frequency, Dave? I see obesity very high, and that has a health effect in many, okay? I do see inflammation, although it's not giving a diagnosis to a condition. I see that as an underlying factor in many. And I bring up those two primarily. There are more, okay? Like I said, I can bring up heart disease, but that comes back to inflammation. I see a lot of that. I see a lot of colds and viruses, person's immune system. That relates back to how strong their base is from the beginning. Okay, what else does it have to focus on? Does your immune system have to focus on the fact that we're also smoking cigarettes, or we're vaping, or we're other toxins that your body has to break down, so your immune system that used to just be able to focus on the outside has to focus on things you're doing on the inside, so it can't do its job because it's distracted. How many people think about that? Give your immune system a chance, okay? And then one big thing that I know Dave is very big on, and I am as well, and we will go into this at some point, is brain health, cognition, mental health, dementia, okay? Dementia is an umbrella. There's many different forms of dementia. Most know about the most common form. It's only a form of Alzheimer's dementia. But how many know that Alzheimer's is under that umbrella of dementia, and it's just one of the forms of cognitive change, okay? But what we do know, especially with a person working with their genetics in mind, knowing, hey, a person's pedigree and those things, still, even if we all start at different levels based on our genetics, we all look different, So guess what? Do you not think we're also different inside in things that make up our brain and our heart, even though we all have brains? Absolutely. But knowing your baseline, not only your baseline, but knowing the effects, especially that we know of, just guess what? The basic exercise. Okay? How does that affect these factors? That's something that Dave has a passion about, and we will see over these next few years how that does continue to go and grow. I know it's going to go well, but it is related to something just as simple as, guess what, being aware of the body, getting the body moving, and how do we stop subjecting ourselves to things that are accelerating other rates that we do not have to subject ourselves to.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think inflammation's huge. The more I research, that's one of the biggest things. And we're going to be getting into a bunch of different things here that a lot of people aren't touching on. You might have pieces of it, but Alzheimer's, working on a class in dementia that I'll be working on a couple of programs with Dr. Joe, as well as longevity, how to use, and he mentioned just a little bit about understanding your genes and what you are maybe predisposed to, but what you can work around. It's not an end. That's not the end. It's just because, I'm predisposed to a higher chance of a cardiovascular disease, doesn't mean you're going to get it if you're proactive in it. And that's what we're talking about. Prevention, mitigation, proactive. That's what we're doing here. So, Doctor, I appreciate it. I think that's excellent. You know what I mean? You talked about obesity, which I think is huge. Just continues to outweigh almost everything out there, especially with young people. It's getting out of control. And a lot of this stuff that comes off of that, with the inflammation. So, guys, be on the lookout. We're open. We're ready to rock and roll. Here to help you. All the information, guys, our website, contact info is below in the box. You guys reach out. Let us help you become better. All right, guys, this is Coach Bricks and my man, Dr. Joe. Take care. RX Health and Fitness, guys.